Good Tuesday evening, everybody. John Cannon here with the Jacket Network. We're going to try this again. We did this last week on Facebook, and not only did we have some issues, we lost Jimmy in the process altogether. So that left Fred and I basically finishing up the whole thing.
That was scary.
But we decided, you know what, let's give it another shot. Try it again. Now we're on Zoom. We're going to pre-record it. Knock on wood, so far everything is so good, but let's hope that we get through this together. Again, I am joined by former KURV 710 football host Fred Alfaro, and of course also who worked alongside him at KURV 710 on Friday Night Football, but also was in the booth with me for a couple years. We have Jimmy Cano as well. Boys, welcome back again. Take two, I guess we can say. Officially now, we can say the football season is underway.
Yeah.
Football season started Monday. I tell you, I went out. I was at practice for the Jackets, and the kids were beyond excited just to be back on the field. The coaches were hyped up. You know, it felt like it used to feel. It had that feel again. And just to see the happiness in the kids' eyes, knowing that there's no worries about, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? You know, are there going to be shutdowns? Are there going to be that? I think that, to me, and I'm going to ask both of y'all, to me, that's the biggest factor. And I think you're going to see a lot of teams really bring it their all. And we could see some teams really surprise some of the teams upstate, you know, coming into this season.
Well, I agree with you. I don't know about Jimmy, but yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's just a feeling. Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, I know your son plays for Ed Couch. And of course, he came back to play this year. And you've told me just how much he loves everything that's going on. What did he tell you after day one? What were his words to you when he came home after that first day of practice?
Oh, that he just sees a whole different. The players are just hungry for, and they have unfinished business from last. They didn't get to play the football that they played last year. You know, everything was just like a blur. Everything was. Happened so fast, and it was just a quick season that this year, you see it and locker room that it's a different year and that they're hungry for that unfinished business that they have to conquer,
Oh, by the way, I forgot last week to say happy belated birthday. Jimmy had a birthday, so happy belated birthday. And he's all excited because Thursday night is the Hall of Fame game. And of course, you can see he's sporting the Cowboys colors. They're playing the Steelers in the Hall of Fame game. So besides high school football starting, the NFL is getting ready to start as well. So that's an exciting, something exciting. Again, back to normal. It just feels so good to have football back in our lives. Today, boys, what we're going to do, we're going to break down 16-5A Division II. Dave Campbell's this year has given a lot of respect to this district. And I think there's a good reason why. Me looking in, of course, you have Sharyland High, Sharyland Pioneer, Mission Vets, Roma, Ed Couch, Mercedes, PSJ Southwest, and PSJ Memorial, and Valley View now back in the mix. Of course, last year they were split into zones. It was a little bit different. There was still kind of a playoff, but it was more of a zone playoff. And of course, Pioneer was a district champ. Mercedes took second, Ed Couch third, Southwest fourth. And of course, Pioneer ended up making that magical run and went to the fourth round for the first time in school history and almost beat Liberty Hill, who was a powerhouse. But guys, for Dave Campbell to sit here and say 16-5A Division II is a district to watch in the state of Texas, I think he nailed it right on the head, because just me looking right now, my opinion, you've got three teams that contend for the title. You've got six, maybe seven teams that could contend for a playoff spot. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I believe. I mean, there's in this district, there's a lot of talent, man. And plus, I mean, you have a lot of teams that I know that are just loaded with talent. A lot of them are coming back, so it could be right on that. I agree, Fred.
Division two in this district, the what is the 5A Division two, should probably be Division one as far as, I mean, I know the schools are smaller, but the talent and the size of these kids has especially the talent. I think that's where Campbell's is looking at the fact that you had a player like Marburger who came out of this district last year, and so you have other guys that have also shown that have moved on to the next level. Which tells you the talent that there is in this district. So yeah, it's going to be one of those where we said this last time, we repeat it again. A very good team is not going to make the playoffs in this district, and by that we mean a team that could very easily go into the playoffs. Will probably sit at home with a average 500 record, or just a game even above the 500 level, and so they're going to be a good team. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen, and that just tells you how talented, how deep they have. We'll break it down in a minute to see how that breaks down. But yeah, it's talent level has evened out here across 5A and 6A. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And it's going to happen, Fred, where you always said about those when we used to do those games, that about those 6A games, or at that time 5A games, the bigger schools back then, you would always say about a talented district like this, the way El Chelsea has, that everyone's going to be beating up on each other. You might not have a perfect record. There might not be a 9-0 team, but everybody just beating up on each other. I always remember when I see a district like this, what you say by
last man standing. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you look at Ed Couch's schedule, we're going to start with them. Right in the middle, they have Pioneer, Mercedes, and Mission Vets. Right in that little kind of that 4, 5, 6 game. They call that the meat grinder per se. And even though Pioneer, they lost, of course, Marburger, who I'm going to say, hands down, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to come out of the Valley. A very talented group. Tom Lee did a great job over there. Mission Vets, David Gilpin, this year, and we're going to talk about that as well. But you see what he did, his team in 7-on-7. And not to mention, they're hungry. First time they missed the playoffs in a long time. And then, of course, you got Mercedes, who's projected to actually win the district right in a row, guys. And all those games are on the road. They're on the road. So we only have 3 home games. And so starting with Ed Couch, right there, those 3 games could literally be district championship games, if you think about it.
Yeah, that's gonna make for me that's what I'm thinking is this: if I'm a Jacket fan and I'm looking at the schedule, right, just like you broke it down, right after week 3, as soon as they're done with PSJ North as far as non-district goes, which by the way I thought is going to be a really good game. But Sharyland, Southwest, and Mission Veterans, if you couldn't get out of there 2-1. That's fair. That's something Ed Couch can pull off. 2-1, whatever you want to do. Sharyland, Southwest, and Mission Veterans. If you can get out of there 2-1, going into the Mercedes game, I mean, you want to go 3-0, obviously. That's even better. But if you realistically say, you know what, if we can beat out of these 3 teams, 2 of them, and get into the Mercedes game, I'm really excited. I'm in good shape if we can do that. Right, because as soon as you go into there and you've got the Mercedes game, which anybody can win that rivalry game, then right after that you take on Sharyland Pioneer. So you have to have a winning record getting into there, because if you don't, and you play Mercedes and then you play Sharyland Pioneer, you could quickly get behind the 8 ball real quick. You know what I mean? Yeah. 2 games out of even the 4th spot. So you don't want to be in the 4th spot anyway to begin with, right? I mean, nobody wants to do the 4th spot. Good thing we don't have to worry about Cal Allen anymore. But the fact is that you always want to be a higher seed, and looking at that is going to be the key. I mean, you have a couple of other games. The rest of them are very winnable for Ed Chelsea. I'm thinking 2-1. I go into Mercedes, and then let's take it a game at a time, right? And then you break it down in the top two teams, which is Mercedes and Pioneer, are our next stop. And so that's your season there, boys.
Jimmy, let me ask you this question. We play Mission Bets on a Thursday night. Then we have a break until Mercedes. Gives us a chance to scout them a little bit, obviously, but do you think that, I mean, it's always an advantage, I feel, but does that give us a little bit of a kind of a cushion per se, that even though it's a night before, you get a little extra added preparation for, not only a big game for the district title, but biggest rivalry game in the Rio Grande Valley, and especially in the district?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to get one, they're going to be able to go out there and do a little, the players are going to get to do the scouting. A lot of them do go. Also, it gives it a little bit of that extra week of mental preparation. And of course, the most important part, it gives them a chance to heal, who knows this season coming up. I mean, they had a short season last year, coming into these first couple of games, and then wanting to go into Mercedes, you want to rest, that's that extra week to rest. So, that extra day to rest. So that's actually very good, man. I mean, for me, I see that very, very good, mental and also physical preparation.
Well, one thing that I think, and we don't want to hear this, but I believe we've lost 8 in a row. Is that correct? To Mercedes. I believe it's 8 in a row now, which nobody wants to hear. And that number does not stick well with Jacket fans, coaches, or players. But, you look at Coach Navarro and what he's done in the 3 years with the program. Of course, he took over in 18-19, where they finished 2-8, 1-5. Of course, he came in halfway through the season, so you can't really count that against him. Then he went 6-5, 4-2, took third place in the district, and then with 5-2, 3-1, took third place again in the district. So you're seeing the progression, boys, of what they're doing for this team. And looking at Ed Couch, they've got some great numbers coming back on offense and defense. 7 offense, 7 defense. And one thing about it, Fred, they run that nasty slot T offense, which we have the number 1 rushing offense in the district, with 3 running backs now coming back in Everett Crispin, Joshua Gomez, and Jonathan Castillo.
Yeah, it feeds exactly the personnel that they have, fits exactly to what the Yellow Jackets want to do. Perfect. So my thing is the numbers, if you go back and check the numbers and the offense and how good, how effective, how productive the offense was for the Jackets, there's still, for me, to get to the next level, to beat the Mercedes, to beat the other teams, Mission Bets, Sheridan Pioneer, all these other teams, right? To beat those guys when it matters, there's got to be a little bit more to it. I've always thought that adding a little something, if you would, to the offense. We've talked about this before. If they could just find a way to get a couple of other guys in the passing game, establish some sort of passing game. We've always said that, and they've done that a couple of times, but it's been very predictable. It's been very predictable what they want to do. So now, I'm really excited to see how the Yellow Jackets can now. They've already been in this type of program for the last few seasons. Take a next step up. What's next? Okay, we're pretty good on offense. We can run the ball on anybody and keep it away and burn the clock, right? The Anaconda offense, squeeze until it's over, right? But hey, so what else can we do when we're behind touchdown? That Anaconda offense doesn't work all the time when you're down 14 points. So that is the key, I think, and I think Coach Navarro and the rest of the staff will do a good job of seeing the talent that they got, not just in the backfield, but their quarterback, young Brandon, right? That's the quarterback who they're looking at. And there's so much talent they can tap into. So that's the challenge. And I think as Yellow Jacket fans, want to see that next step, that progression that comes from there. I mean, I'm just thinking as a fan now. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just thinking as a fan what I would love to see.
Jimmy, you and I called it a lot last year where a couple of games, we slowly saw that offense start to open up. First thing Coach Navarro said is, you know what? We got to open up the passing game. And Fred said it best, Brandon Cortez. Kid is a tremendous athlete. But yet, you still have Alvaro Amaya that's there. The kid was a tremendous quarterback as a freshman. We still have a couple other QBs there that can play. With Brandon, how deadly he is at quarterback. And he's the centerpiece of this offense. But do you expect with Ed Calchos, the way they want to open up the playbook a little bit, could we see Brandon possibly in a couple of different formations?
Oh yeah, Brandon is too much of a talent to just have him just a quarterback. I mean, you want. I don't know if anybody remembers, but he's a very good running back. When he was in the backfield, I mean, he's still a very good running back. He's very good with his hands. He's one of the best pass catchers that they have too. When he has too much talent, John and Fred. I see that they're going to use him in ways, different formation, or maybe even as a decoy. Who knows? I mean, it's one of those where he has so much talent. He has that blazing speed. He's very his cuts are good. I mean, you never know when he's going to go inside or outside, make that cut real quick. He's very elusive. Once he's out in the open, he's very elusive. He loves to run. He loves to run the ball. So yeah, I do agree with you on that, John. I mean, you have several places that you can use him, not just that court. So it's going to be fun to see.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And especially when you average over 440 plus yards on the ground a game, you got to stick with your bread and butter. It's what's got you to the playoffs 2 years in a row. Right. But we look back at that Mercedes game and the adjustments that they made, in the second half. We were running on them and running on them and running on them. And then all of a sudden they loaded the box and it didn't work. So, I think Navarro, and again, he is a very smart coach. He knows better than anybody, what to do. And I think he realizes that, okay, our ground game is established. Got a great offensive line coming back. We've got a good quarterback, got some weapons now that we can use all over the field. I agree. I think that he's going to open up that playbook and is going to tell his offensive guys, okay, you know what? Let's not just add a few wrinkles. Let's add a lot more to this. But I still think, boys, I still think we're going to see the traditional Ed Calchos. They're going to run that ball. Like I said in front of the Cal Allen game, they love to run it down people's throats. And it bit me in the you-know-what. Yeah. But I think that you stick with what got you there, the running game. But I agree. I think we're going to open it up a little bit more. Yeah. Defensively.
Party on, Garth. Party on.
Defensively, party on, Lane. Our defensive backfield, Jimmy, you and I have talked about this could be one of the best defensive backfields. We've always had a great defensive backfield. But we've got 4 studs coming back. Diego Valdez, Alexis Rodriguez, Enrique Beltran, and Joseph Garcia, plus a couple of more. Especially against Vets, who loves to throw the ball. Mercedes, who they can run it as well, but they like to throw the ball. Having that experienced defensive backfield, how much more is that going to help us now? Because we know what our defensive line can do. We know what our linebackers do. Hey, we never question that. Every year we always question it. And, that's where we're loaded at. But do you think this year it's going to be the strength of the defensive backfield that's going to make this defense?
Oh, yeah, by far, John. I mean, just with Diego and Alexis, very, very aggressive tacklers. They're hard-nosed ball hawks where they don't have them interceptions. They're going to have a lot of tipped balls and where they're going to cause a ruckus back. And like I said, just with Diego and Alexis is just enough. Now, the other 2 studs that we have back there, plus, I mean, I do hear that we have more talent, some younger boys are also coming in that are also the same. And that's going to be a very good defense. It's probably going to be one of the best defenses in the district. and if not the best secondary in the Valley.
Fred, on the defensive line, Nico Herrera is going to be spearheading that. This kid has been projected as one of the top defensive linemen to watch in the Rio Grande Valley. 52 tackles, 6 sacks last year. Of course, he's going to join Frankie Martinez, Christian Sandoval, Justin Sandoval, and JD Munoz. But Nico, I tell you, this kid is put on some weight, some muscle, and just looks like a beast. He really does. Ed Couch, like I said, we call ourselves DBU, but better than anybody, it all starts, up front with that D-line and those linebackers. It's always been. Talk a little bit about him and also what the defensive front, means besides the defensive backfield to the Jackets defense, which has always been, when you think of Ed Couch, also you think of defense.
When you can have at this level a player like Nico, right, who's a playmaker, who we call him, for lack of better terms, a beast, because he can put him. He that's what he is. He's gonna require that much attention. He's gonna disrupt your offense that much. You're gonna need that in this heavy quarterback league or district that we see that Couch in. You have to rush the passer. Got to make him uncomfortable. You have to make him hurry up, especially with, like we said, Mercedes does this, Mission Vets does this, Pioneer does this. Go down the list, right? I mean, Valley View does this. You've got a Sherryland. You got everybody that is going to try to throw the ball at you. Now, the key, I think, is he'll get back there. But I'm counting on the other guys, the guys that are not necessarily named Nico, to say, hey, okay, we've got real good guys back here. If we can just get a little bit of pressure, these guys, we're comfortable with these guys making plays back there. If we can just get to the quarterback or disrupt it enough, those guys will make plays back there. So finding a nice balance, I'll give you an example. Cisneros, who's the biggest threat, I think, in the district as far as quarterback goes, depends on what happened with Duran over in Mission and in Pioneer, which, by the way, I don't know everything about that. But the fact is that he's probably one of the, if not the best quarterback in this district. You think about what he can do best. If you can find out what he does, you have a real good chance of stopping Reina. Have a real good chance of stopping none of the other quarterbacks that come right after that. So if you can figure that out, the balance, because those quarterbacks don't just throw. They see nothing, and guess what they do? They take off right on you, and that's what makes them dangerous, right? But I think if Nico, along with those other guys, really get going and really understand the fact that, hey, we've got to create the chaos against these quarterbacks, then you're talking, because you back there you have guys that are going to be playmakers, guys that are ball hawks, guys that are going to make things happen back there. That's your strong suit, So help them out a little bit, and man, all of a sudden you're in it, man. All of a sudden you've got yourself more than a chance. That's what I would be telling these guys. So look, I don't care who it is. I don't care how you do it. You find a way to get in Reina's face and Cisneros' face and whoever is the quarterback. That's key. I think that's key. The defensive line has to set the tone, start to end, right?
Yeah. And speaking of Mercedes, that's where we're going next. They got 6 offense, 6 defense coming back, and you're right, Fred. Michael's, Cisneros is back. He was actually the Dave Campbell's preseason offensive MVP of this district. The kid threw for 1,409 yards last year, rushed for 514, had 19 touchdowns, in a short season. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. And the offense revolves around this young man. But, I know even though a lot of teams focus on him, you still have Jimenez, the running back. And Jimmy, you remember him. Jimenez was a threat last year. He ended up with 552 rushing yards, had 12 touchdowns. And you have that Tyrell Trevino. This kid is just an athlete. He's an absolute athlete, can do a little bit of everything. So even though that Cisneros is the type of quarterback that can sit back in the pocket and throw, or like you said, he can run it as well. He's got those 2 guys also. So with Mercedes, it's a little bit of what are they going to do?
Right.
Are they going to run? Are they going to throw on you?
Yeah, A lot of it is you got to start off with the offensive line. Those big guys in front, they've always had, Mercedes has always had up on the front, big boys, always, very good at pass protection, and that's why Mercedes lately has been very positive on their passing. I mean, they're very successful on their passing because of those big guys up front. Yes, Cisneros and Jimenez. Yeah, they're very good athletes, but I think that it all starts up in the front with those big boys up front, offensive line for them.
Yep.
So, Fred, if you're an opposing defense, what's your game plan? Because, like I said, you could focus on Cisneros, like, okay, attack him. Then you have Trevino right here. You have Jimenez right here. You can bring Trevino over here. You can bring your receiver. You've got all these different options. So if you're a defensive coordinator, what's your plan? What do you can't just be a one-dimensional type defense. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. The word is balance. It's hard. It's hard to do, though. I mean, everybody says balance. Oh, okay, so no, but it's really hard to do against a team that's explosive like that, right? And you have those. Yeah, you just don't have Mercedes. We're talking about Mercedes, but you have it in Mission Veterans. You have it in Sherryland Pioneer. You have it in Sherryland even that can be very explosive at any time. Now, that's why I'm saying you have to slow down their playmaker. And if you look and go back to all those teams we've mentioned, they have a playmaker at quarterback. Most of them do. So the fact is, if you try to slow him down and let somebody else beat you, because you know what Cisneros can do, you know what Reina can do, you know all these other guys that are there at different places, and Dimas Lopez over at Cherryland, all these other guys. If you slow them down, then you're giving your defense a chance to, hey, other guys are good too. You can't stop everybody. I mean but at least slow down their playmakers. That all these teams that we talked about have that same thing. They have playmakers at quarterback that can find it. So if you slow them down, don't let them beat you. Let somebody else do it. We've heard that before. Let somebody else try to do it, and you adjust. But that balance that you have to find is so tough to find, but again, you've got to limit certain players, and the quarterback spot for Mercedes is, I think, the top one. You build your defense to try to stop that player, and if you can at least do that and give yourself a shot, and then let your offense keep it away from them as much as possible, man. That's for sure. Run the clock, man.
I don't know if you know this, but Paul Reyes is back at Mercedes. This is actually his second year, at Mercedes as the OC. Of course, he's been a tremendous offensive coordinator, did a great job at Rowe. But now, boys, we talk about how explosive their offense is, but the funny thing about it, Adame is a defensive guru. That's his bread and butter. And Mercedes' defense, just as impressive as the offense is, you can't sleep on this defense. I mean, you've got Rohan Galvan. It was an all-stater 3-year starter, 107 tackles, 3 sacks. Again, in the short season. And then you got Jaden Gonzalez, 85 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 great linebackers, then Isaac Lozoya on the defensive end. So you're looking at experience on that defensive front. And, you look at like us with Ed Catch, how we love to run the ball. Looking at this defense right now, what I see is, okay, so they're stacked in the front 7. So, and not to say that we don't know what they have in the defensive backfield, but you can expect against an Adame type defense, whether you're loaded at linebacker, defensive back, defensive end, defensive line, whatever, they're in attack mode all the time, and you can't just think that, oh well, okay, they're loaded there, so we can throw the ball. Oh, okay, we can run the ball. No matter what, across the board, they're always very, very athletic and tough on this side of the ball.
John, I wanted to add, we're talking about the defense, but I wanted to add what you had asked Fred, how would you stop their powerful offense? I wanted to go back to that, and add that to stop someone like Cisneros, he's very, very fast. you have to keep a linebacker or two in right there just watching him. You have to keep a linebacker at least just to keep him honest, and dare him to pass, because that's where you're able to trust and give confidence to our defensive backfield to be able to make the big plays. You have to let him sit back there and dare him to throw.
That's a good point.
That's how I would stop him.
Yeah.
Now, Jimmy, their defense, we've seen, again, we talk about Adame, defensive guru, automatically looking. He's got experience back. You got 6 defensive guys back. So it's a very balanced team. Like you said, Fred, you want balance.
Yeah.
Well, this is as balanced as you can get. And they're projected to win the district title, not to mention they went to the 3rd round of the consolation bracket in the state 7-on-7 tournament. So, Jimmy, talk about defensively. That's Adame's baby. He runs that defense. So are we going to see the way it looks? It's going to be that same relentless Tiger defense that you can pretty much expect every year.
Yeah. I mean, last year, the first half, if you remember against the Mercedes game, Etiatoso was dominating in the beginning.
Yes.
Dominating like nothing. I mean, just dominating. But what they actually did, they didn't really do much adjustment in the second half. All they did was they added that one more player to the box, and that's how they were able to stop our offense. And I'm sorry to say it, last year we couldn't do anything to anything different rather than to try to run, and they were able to. And basically, they were daring us to pass, and at that time we just didn't have it, And this year I think it's going to be different this year with Mercedes. They're gonna be more than happy to stick that extra guy, in box and dare us to pass. But we'll see what happens.
There you go. So we're going to jump to our next team, Pioneer. What a season, guys. 4th round of the playoffs. Again, like I talked about, early in the show, Eddie Lee Marburger, such a special kid. What he did for Pioneer, I mean, he put him on the map. There's no doubt about it. Going to go down as one of the greats ever. He led the nation in so many categories last year on offense. I actually watched that Liberty Hill game, and it was funny. I kind of laughed. I chuckled because I'm like, hey, they run what we run, so you got run against pass. But yet it was a high scoring back, forth. Well, now a lot of guys gone. A lot of seniors gone. Marburger's gone. Tom Lee is gone. Yeah. So Eddie Galindo, who was a former OC, he now takes over, some familiarity. But here's the thing. You lose 18 starters. You only got 2 on offense, 2 on defense. Now, I know you mentioned Duran, and I have a little bit of what I've heard. And again, this is hearsay. He did transfer to Pioneer on March 2nd. The district committee denied his eligibility in early April, and then I did find out UIL denied him to play this year. So as of right now, it looks like he's not going to be able to suit up and play for Pioneer. Now, again, that's unofficial. I don't know. That's just the word I got from my sources. So he may go back to Michigan, he may not. But if that's the case, Fred, that's a big hole to fill at quarterback. And now Joseph Graham, who we remember in the playoff game, had a huge game. Did a little bit of everything. He's their big athlete. They may have to move him to quarterback. Yeah. So now that puts your whole offense kind of out of whack. Well, and only 2 returning offensive players to boot.
Yeah, that you think about Jeremy Duran and what he brings. He obviously is not the same type of player that Marburger was, but he's his own type of quarterback, and he's really good at what he does. So if he doesn't go, or he decides to play JV, by the way, you can do that and go play JV at Pioneer if you want to. I don't know if he's got a year of eligibility left.
I think he is a junior, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he's a junior.
I mean, maybe he sits out his junior year and plays his senior year, focuses on another sport, who knows? But let's, for time purposes, let's say that he is not there. Then Joseph Graham becomes, unless Galindo has been hiding his hand, and he has something that he's not showing to anybody, which is possible, Joseph Graham would be the next person who is a playmaker. Remember, we're looking at that playmaker that we've talked about in this district. Here it is. Graham is that type of guy. Can he throw like Duran? Probably not. Not at this point. He hasn't been a quarterback, at least at this level yet. Doesn't mean he can't do the things that a quarterback can. But in that type of an offense, remember that spread offense, and you don't have to necessarily have to throw the ball deep every single time. A lot of the plays that they run, a lot of screens, dink and dunk, a lot of crossing patterns, a lot of motion, and people in screens, whatever, bubble screens. Then you use him going out. He's got speed, he's got some size. Move him around. If you can find an adequate guy to throw him the ball on a bubble screen or something, you've got yourself a guy, a Swiss Army knife of the offense, basically. So if they can find a way to use Graham, if Duran is not there, they're gonna be very good. They're not gonna be as good as Duran, because then Joseph Graham becomes your main guy and an athlete, and he's tough to stop on the outside or in the slant. But let's put it this way: the difference between Duran and Graham is probably a game or two. They Pioneer might lose a game or two to a team like a Mercedes, an EdCap, a Mission Veterans. Remember, we said they're going to beat up each other. So it's possible now because you have more experience. To me, I always look at the guys that are coming back, especially on offense. You've got to retool that offense again, basically, and you have to start with a new quarterback. You got to start from the beginning, basically. Especially if we don't know if Joseph has played quarterback at all in his high school career. So I would keep an eye on that. I think that would determine a lot of maybe even if they make the playoffs in this, they might be one of those guys that might be left out. We said a good team might be left out. They might be one of those teams that is a good team that might be left out.
And something funny, if you remember, and I was thinking of his name right now, but before Marburger, they had that other quarterback, and he was solid. He was a great quarterback for Pioneer. And remember, he got hurt. Marburger came in. Okay, who's this kid? Well, I think everybody now knows who Marburger is. So you could have that situation where Pioneer's making you, kind of playing chess, thinking, okay, you know what? We want you to think we don't have. Again, Dave Campbell's projected them to finish second in this district. So they don't just project with those numbers that you look at, 18 starters gone. Best quarterback in the state, to me, one of the best quarterbacks in the state of Texas. You lose 20, you have 2 offense, 2 defense coming back. Jimmy, do you think that maybe there's a wrinkle under that cap for Galindo that we don't know about? Because the fact is Pioneer and there's tradition. And they don't want to be that team, because we're going to mention a team right now in Mission Vets who for years was one of the best teams. Went 3 rounds. You remember they had Landry Gilpin, and then all of a sudden they missed the playoffs. So Pioneer doesn't want to be that team that goes from making history to losing out. So do you think the tradition, do you think, all these factors that come into play still makes Pioneer a dangerous team, despite the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unknown? At least on our part.
Yeah, there is, John. And actually, when Fred was saying his points, it made me think right away that under the new head coach, of course, the offense is not going to change because he was the offensive coordinator. But now he's gonna bring in new things to the system. So for me, I think that this year, and maybe I could be wrong, but the way it looks, they lost too many starters. They lost too many players, too many key role players, and there's a question mark at quarterback that we know of right now. I think it's going to be a rebuild year for Pioneer, for Galindo, because you lost too much talent. That losing somebody like Marburger, those are very, very big shoes to fill. And especially, you don't have somebody come up that has that experience to run the offense the way Marburger did. I mean, you would see Marburger out there. I was there working the Mercedes and Sherryland Pioneer game. Oh man, the way he ran the offense, Marburger was just I don't think anybody in the ever be able to run an offense like that. He was just relentless at the way everything. It was just everything was just running smooth. Like if nobody made a mistake. You lost too much talent. I think for Galindo, I think this is a rebuild. They're not going to finish second. I think they're going to finish fourth, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, even with Duran in the mix, even though you bring him in, there's still so much talent that's gone. You know, you lost a lot of your offensive line. You lost a lot of your playmakers. You know, you lost those great receivers that you had, your running back. You know, defensively, they do have two big guys coming back, but you lost, you know, when you lose 18 starters, guys, think about it. That's a lot. That's 9-9 right there. That's pretty much your entire offense, your entire defense. So I got to agree with you, Jimmy. I think that this could be a year where Pioneer may be one of those teams that's fighting for a playoff spot. But again, you just don't know because they could be a team that literally feeds off that tradition and says, okay, underestimate us because we're going to prove you wrong. So a lot of what ifs, but, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. Mission Vets. First, and this is going to be hard to say because I really like Coach Gilpin. Been a Gilpin fan for a long time. For the first time since 2011 and 12, they did not clinch a playoff spot last year. They went 1-5 and 1-2. Of course, you know, we beat them in the zone playing game. You know, they lost Gonzaki, who was, you know, kind of like the Marburger of all-purpose players. You know, the guy he was Mr. Do-It-All, could do everything. And now you look at, but the funny thing about it is you look at Mission Vets. Coach Gilpin and Fred and Jimmy, you guys covered a lot of veterans games. You did a lot of those games. You were there when Landry was there and they had all these great quarterbacks. Gilpin is a type of person that not only does he not like being in the playoffs or is he content, he wants to make a run. He wants to win a district championship. So you got to think that he's salivating in the mouth right now, thinking, okay, we didn't get in last year. But you know what? This year, looking at him, 4 offense, 8 defense, Ricky Reina coming back. You got Noah Garcia. You got a very experienced defense. They went 4-1 in the state 7-on-7 tournament in the championship bracket, went all the way to round 2. Guys, with Gilpin's experience, Ricky Reina, and just the fact that the way he's going to coach these kids up, Mission Vets to me is one of those teams, not only that I see as a playoff team, I think they're going to be in the mix for the district championship, to be honest with you. What do y'all think?
Yeah, you know, John, real quick before mine will be brief before Fred comes in with this one, but covered lots of games back when we were with KURV. We covered lots. I did a lot of games too. I don't know if you remember, Fred. We were there when the quarterback. I don't recall what his name was, but their quarterback.
Wasn't it Santos Villarreal?
No, I think it was Espinosa, or I don't remember what his name was, but he was he looked like. I mean, I always thought he looked like Peyton Manning because he had that same style. Very good in the pocket. Very good quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Was it Diego? No, Diego. I think it was Diego.
Yes, I think that was his.
Yeah,
we won Santos. I thought maybe I don't know. Maybe it was Diego.
Well, we were there when he went down on an ankle injury mid-season, and Landry comes in and doesn't even miss the beat. The offense just clicked with him very quick. And to me, I always said it, and I've said this to Fred. I call Coach Gilpin a quarterback whisperer because every year, every quarterback has that quarterback runs the offense exactly the way we run. And I think with Coach Gilpin, every year he rebuilds. It doesn't matter who's back there at quarterback. He's gonna be fluent. You know, that quarterback is gonna be very well knowledge by Coach Gilpin. And real quick before I pass it on to Fred, I want to give Coach Gilpin a shout out because after the Ed Calchosa game, when Ed Calchosa beat Mission Vets, he went on Twitter and don't do this. Twitter on his personal Twitter and gave a very good congratulations to Ed Calchelsa and was very respectful and very, I mean, just a class act the way he was, that he was happy with the game and he gave Ed Calchelsa a very big good luck and a great team. Sent his respects. So I want to send those respects back to Coach Gilpin. I mean, he was very class act. You don't see a lot of coaches do that on their personal Twitter page. But go ahead, Fred.
Now, Fred, I want to ask you this question. We've always known Mission Vet and Pioneer kind of did the same thing. They always put their play, and I don't want to say play, but if you look at it, most of their playmakers are on the offensive side of the ball. Because why? They kind of run that Indianapolis Colts type philosophy when Peyton was there. We're going to outscore you. You may score 41 points, but we're going to score 48. And that was kind of the mentality of Pioneer, of Mission Vets. But they got 8 defensive guys back this year. Do you feel that even though we know Mission Vets still can be explosive on offense, could it be the defense that actually is the key possibly to the success this year, for the Patriots to possibly win a district championship? Because again, we talk about Ed Couch, number 1 rushing offense, in the Rio Grande Valley, still coming back, loaded. You've got Cisneros, you've got Sherryland, but Pioneer, yet we just don't know. But looking at that number and looking at that defense with the experience that they have, could that be the key for them? That gets them, in that mix for that district championship game.
Without a doubt, that is going to be their way into the playoffs. They look, the offense has never been an issue. Even back, when they had different offensive coordinators, the head coach up in PSJ now, Lupe, I forget his name.
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, record setter up in Mission. He was there early on when Mission Veterans started, and that offense kind of started there, him and Gilpin. Then he left to PSJ, but that offense stayed. That a wide open offense PSJ runs it too. But the fact is that this year the defense and looking at their returners, they have some numbers on defense. I mean, they're going to have to rely on the Hoyos and some of the other guys that are back from injury or couldn't play last year, and get those guys to do something on defense, because that was their Achilles heel, has been for some time. Even the championship team, when Landry was there, this was never the problem. They would, and you said it best earlier, score 44 on our defense, we'll put up 50. Well, how long can you do that for in a season? It doesn't add up to winning football. So I mean, doesn't mean it's not exciting. We love seeing a lot of offense, but I think the defense this year, having some numbers back, Coach Gilpin knowing, hey guys, I think our offense is going to be okay. Let's focus on this defense. Let's get our guys back. You're right. Trying to slow down Mercedes, Ed Couch, all these teams that you were not successful with against last year. Go back, and if there's one common denominator, your defense gave up big numbers to those teams. That's the key. Not that your offense couldn't get going. Ricky Reina, we said earlier, you're looking at a quarterback, a playmaker. He's a playmaker. He's one of those guys that's up there with Cisneros and these other guys, right? I mean, he's that type of a player. But again, can the defense find that balance that we've talked about, and be good enough to be, in the playoffs? I just think the coaching, the athletes they have there are too good for that not to be the case. So even if that means bringing some players from the offense, hey, that's okay. We see that all the time, So I just think that there's no way. I'm telling you this right now. I agree with Jimmy, and I agree with you. I just don't see Coach Gilpin going another year without making the playoffs. No. That just doesn't jive, man. That just doesn't go, Yep.
That's why I said when I said it, I'm not used to saying that about him.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But so again, folks, want to thank you for tuning in for our Start the Clock podcast. John Cannon, along with football Fred Alfaro, and of course Jimmy Cano. Here talking a little football, guys. We are breaking down District 16 5A. We're going to move along. A sleeper team last year that one of us projected was PSG Southwest. We saw them as, you know, we saw progression with Southwest under Mark Evans. And of course, they run that ugly flex bone offense. They ended up clinching the 4th seat, upsetting Sherryland last year for the final playoff spot. They got in. But, and while, you know, obviously they want to feed off of that, they lose a lot. They only have 2 back on offense, 4 on defense. But the 2 big weapons they do have on offense is Angel Hernandez, the running back, and Malpica, the quarterback. But I talked to a very good friend of mine, which we know very well, David Duty, who is now at Bravo Vets.
Right.
And he said, even though those 2 kids are back, the offense is still going to be really young. The offensive line is going to be young. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not going to say Southwest couldn't still be in the mix. They could, because you know how the old saying, once you get a taste, you always want more. But offensively, you know, in order for these 2 to have success, you gotta have those hogs up front. And you know, with 2 only coming back on offense, and those are the 2 weapons you have, I think that's safe to say, guys, it's gonna be a very young offensive line.
Yeah. That's important, and that's vital in their offense. In this type of offense, if your offense, I when everybody asks me, hey, so how good is Edgar's going to be? How good is Wesley going to be? First thing I'll look at is say, well, how good is their offensive line? Because you need that type of an offense that they run needs. I mean, everybody needs the offensive line, but there's some programs, especially somebody like Southwest who runs all the time. They need to need to be meshing. They have to at least play together. And when they're young like that, it's going to take a few games. And hopefully you figure out that by the middle of the season, things have been worked out, and now you've got giving yourself a chance to stay in it. You know, you hope that you don't suffer a lot of injury, especially on the offensive side of the ball. That's where you're going to make their points come. A young team is true. So the fact is, I've always known PSG Southwest for having a good, strong offensive line, a huge offensive line, if anything. So if they can get that size that they've always had, and they're always taught well, the Coach Evans and the staff does a good job of understanding that's important for a running game, they'll be okay. I've said this before, and we have a couple of teams like that on here, and they're the perfect example of this. Just don't trust these guys, man. Just don't trust them, because they might show up one game and punch in the mouth, and you're like, where did this come from? You know? So you
look at the Sherryland game.
Yeah.
I mean, they held Sherryland to 7 points. You know, and that's what I was going to mention, Jimmy, is you know, they're looking back at that game saying, hey, our defense won this game. So even though we only got 2 back on offense, we do have 4 on defense. 2 big defensive guys up front. They run that 4-2-5 defense. So kind of like Mission Vets, when I talked about, you know, they're loaded on the defensive side. Southwest may have to rely a lot on their defense to keep them in these games, don't you think?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you have a defense like that, I mean, especially those big guys up front in the defensive line, I mean, you have to put it on them to, you know, if your offense is kind of, you know, really getting started or whatever, you're gonna have to rely on your defense to give you the ball back and try again. And so yeah, I mean, just like you said, you know, they held Fairyland to 7 points, you know, last that may happen to some more teams this time, because you know I think they've found a groove, and I don't think it matters too much that they only have those 4 defensive players coming back. They're going to reload. You know, they looked hungry last year. They looked hungry. They did give us. I mean, they gave us a good game in the beginning, but But yeah,
Yeah, and you know what? Mark Evans, he knows how to coach up these kids. I mean, one thing about it, there's a lot of really good coaches in this district, and a lot of it is it's who comes up with the best game plan that week. So we're going to jump over, and Jimmy, I'm going to start with you. Sherryland, another team, first time since 2007, they didn't make the playoffs. Again, in Sherryland, that's unheard of. That's something that you don't expect. Of course, Ron Adame, he's no longer head coach. Of course, he's the new athletic director. Of course, Richard Thompson, the legend, he retired. So, who better than Ron? I think that was a great move. Ron and also Coach Lee, the assistant AD. So Craig Krell, the defensive coordinator, takes over Sherryland High. They got big numbers coming back, Jimmy. 27 returners, 30 lettermen, 4 offense, 4 defense. Dimas Lopez is going to be the young quarterback, and he's got 2 very good receivers to work with. Similar to Mission Vets, the Sherryland appear to be one of those teams. They're projected to finish 5th in district. Again, not showing them a lot of love, Dave Campbell's. But with that tradition that the Rattlers have, could they be another scary team? New head coach. So, obviously when you have a new head coach, you have new ideas, you have new philosophies, you have new this. But could this be something that they use as ammunition like Mission Vets is going to do to say, okay, we're reminded we've missed the playoffs for the first time since this year. We're not going to let this happen again. Do you kind of see that happening?
well, yeah, but you have to. I mean, you have right off the bat that the defense is still going to be strong, no matter what. And, that their coach became now the head coach. So now, I mean, that's going to be more of a. It's going to make it stronger. I think they're looking at them on the Dave Campbell's. I think, John, that they're going to be one of those teams like called PSJ Southwest, a surprise team. I think Sherryland High is going to be that surprise team. I don't know about them finishing 5th. Maybe they might be battling for 4th. With Pioneer.
You just read my mind. I was going to say that. How ironic the Sherryland High, Sherryland Pioneer could be for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And that would be unheard of, because normally when you think of Pioneer, they're playing for the district championship. Sherryland playing for, possibly the number 1, number 2 seed. Now you're talking about them playing for the final spot in the postseason. That makes that snakeskin rivalry even more fun and a lot more to play for than just bragging rights, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they know that they're. It's rare when you say that, because they do have a lot of athletes there as well. Both programs do. But the fact is, when you have those type of players coming back, not a lot of numbers, both on offense and defense. Coach Krell's gonna have to do a good job, along with the rest of the staff, to try to get these guys rolling. They do have some good centerpieces to start, but how quickly can Dimas come along? Their quarterback. Is he the guy who's gonna do it, or do they have somebody, that's coming down the pipe here that we haven't heard of, who Coach Krell might be grooming or getting into it? Not too long ago, we had the same thing happen with a young guy by the name of Lee Marburger. I mean, he was coming around, and Marburger was a young cat, was a freshman. Remember him? And we felt that he was being groomed at Sherryland. And then eventually he became what he became, at Pioneer. But the fact is that that's something to look at. But again, yeah, just because there are the other teams we've talked about have a lot more numbers, have a lot more experience coming back, that's going to make it that much more interesting. Again, we could have a good team, just like Sherryland. It might be a really good team who might be struggling at the very end. That's very possible.
There you go. We're going to jump over to Valley View. Of course, last year they did not play. They canceled their season, due to COVID. But prior to that, they, playoff appearances in 18, and they were very competitive in 19. Of course, they have Coach Esquivel, who's done a really, really great job with the Tigers. Looking at them, Uh, I don't really have any numbers. They didn't have much on, but I know they've got Raul Ramirez, a couple of receivers, kind of like Pioneer. They got a couple of receivers coming back and a quarterback, a couple of guys on defense, but they're projected to finish 8th in the district. I think with Valley View taking that year off and trying to come back, I think that's going to be tough for them. Again, we don't really know the numbers. We don't really know how many guys they got coming back, but I want to see how that layoff is going to affect them. And I think it's going to be tough to come back, especially in this district with, the teams that we just talked about, prior to them.
Yeah, Coach Esquivel is going to do his best. He's been around for a long time. He's going to run a good offense. He's got a good coaching staff as well, experienced staff that he has there. You're right. I have to share this with you. This past year during baseball season, I got to do a Western game, the playoff game against La Jolla. One of the things that I asked both coaches, and both of them, and this is baseball, they said, look, the tough part for us all year has been trying to find out what type of team we have, because we don't know, we didn't have a lot of the younger programs like the JVs and sophomores, they didn't play. So you don't know what's coming up. You don't know what type of athletes you have coming up. Now imagine in football taking a year off and not even looking at the development of those players. You had no contact with those players, or maybe very little. So right now, the coaches, it's like these new guys coming in. You're meeting a kid for the first time, and he's on your field, and you're gonna have to teach him how to run an offense, how to play defense, or whatever. That's what makes it really tough. And a lot of the programs, not just Valley View, but a lot of the programs are going to struggle to find out what type of depth they have. All of a sudden, they find out they have this kid who's a junior who's really good. Well, where did he come from? Well, we just never saw him because there was no football last year. There was no training. There was nothing, right? So don't be surprised if that happens to a lot of these teams. Where did this guy come from? Well, he was on the JV team, but JV didn't have a season. So now he's on the varsity and he's doing really well. So I'm hoping, at least I'm thinking, if I'm a Valley View Tiger fan, that's the case. We have a couple of guys that are going to come in and help the rest of the team out.
Yeah. There's and a couple of teams. I mean, again, we talked about Pioneer. We don't know the quarterback situation. The other situation with Sherryland. Are they going to? With Mission Vets. So we just don't know much about Valley View. Now, looking at Roma, kind of the same situation. They went so Jimmy logged off, so it's gonna be just you and me, Fred, for a little bit, going the rest of the way.
Okay.
Almost done. We got a couple of teams left. Roma, they went 0-3 last year. No non-district games. Really struggled. But looking at their numbers, they've got some great numbers. They've got 5 offense, 8 defense. They've got Ricardo Morales, Sebastian Garza, Alejandro Perez, 2 running backs, slot T offense. They have a senior. Now, we've talked about offensive line. They're a senior-heavy offensive line, okay?
Right.
And they got a lot of guys back on defense. Now, even though Roma only played 3 games last year, I've always said this about Roma. Roma's one of those teams that you can never leave them out. Because even though Dick Campbell's has them 7, I remember we went to Roma a couple years back playing for a playoff spot. Roma beat us. Roma took it away from us. So they could be one of those teams that could be, like you said, teams could be beating each other up. And here's Roma coming out of nowhere and could beat someone they don't expect them to beat. And guess what? That win could just keep them in the mix. So another team with uncertainty, but looking at it offensively, especially if they can really get that slot T going, I think their philosophy is going to be, we're going to wear down your defense, keep your offense off the field. And I think that's how they're going to try to win games. But then again, you look at that, they got 8 guys on defense. So what do you do?
Right. Well, the key for me with Roma right off the bat, I'm looking at their non-district schedule. They're going to need all the help they can get to get rolling and get hot early on. For them, I mean, they start against Rio Grande City, that Star Bowl, or what do they call it up in Rio Grande City?
Star County Bowl,
Yeah, they always go at it. So that's right off the bat. Edinburgh Economides, who will probably be much improved now, and so then you think about PSG Southwest right off the bat, they go into district. So they've got to get in there quickly. They don't have a lot of time. So that's why I said they have to start early and gel, because they have very little time before the season starts to get in. Their toughest part of the season will be towards the end. I think if they're in it, they have at the very end, the last two games will be at the Black Hole and against Mission at Mission Cherryland. Those two games, I believe, will be the big difference makers, whether they're in or out. A win from any of those couple of games might put you into the mix. But at the very end, they'll be done with everybody by then. But at least you give yourself a chance at the very end to maybe upset somebody or upset somebody's season for sure. So early on, that would be the case with Roma.
Now, last team we're going to talk about, PSG Memorial. Another team kind of plagued last year. They only had one non-district game. They went 0-3, 0-4. Dave Brown reassigned, but they bring in a name that a lot of people know, Will Littleton. Of course, he is a son of Bill Littleton, who recently retired from McAllen Memorial. That's going to seem really weird not seeing him on the sidelines, but I can guarantee you he'll still be at the games. But, he's a former PSG North defensive coordinator. He's looking to turn the Wolverines around. They're 0-14 the last 2 years. He's got good numbers. He's got 7 offense, 5 defense. He's got Jaden Cruz, good little quarterback. He's got Fonseca. They're going to run that pro-style offense. He's got a lot of defensive guys back. They're projecting Memorial to finish 9th. And I think for Littleton, this is going to be a year of really getting to know his team.
Right.
I think that it's going to be hard to go 0-14. And you said this the last time. If they win even 2 games, that's a big improvement from the year.
That's a positive. Yeah.
I think this is going to be where he's going to have to take this year and say, okay, I got to really reflect. I got to look at what I got. I got to evaluate. I got to see, even though he's going to have scrimmages, non-district. But if anybody can turn this team around, I think it's Littleton. He comes from a winning mentality, done a great job at Far North with Kaufman. And I don't see them in the mix for the playoffs, but I can foresee them winning a couple of games, and I think if that happens, even if they win 3 or 4 games, that's a lot to really look forward to for PSG Memorial in his inaugural season.
I think it's possible. They understand that. I agree with you. I'll give you my observations of Coach Littleton. He's a winner. And by that, you say, well, how many games he won? Not so much the games, but he's been an assistant majority of the time. You got to watch him on the sidelines. When he was defensive coordinator for PSG North, especially, I remember that very well. He's a hands-on coach. He's involved with the players. The players are going to gravitate towards him. He's that type of a coach that you're excited to play for. He's exciting. He's always jumping on the sidelines, that kind of stuff. So that type of enthusiasm starts to rub off on these kids who haven't won the game, or at least they knew of somebody that was on the team last year that, hey, we didn't win a single game, and they know of somebody. And before you know, you say, wait a minute, it's been a couple of seasons before we even had a win. So now all of a sudden you have hope here with these, and he really does. I'm looking at his schedule. Edinburgh North to start off at Rio Hondo, and then it goes right into the district schedule. So those two early games, you're going to find a lot about yourself, especially against a good North team. Rio Hondo, it's a strong, solid, 4A team. They're always there. Rocky James always does a good job with them. So hey, that'll help, and so that'll give some momentum. Hopefully, they have a rough schedule to begin with. I mean, they open up at Mercedes, and then they go to Pioneer before they have a break and an open. But again, baby steps.
Yeah,
And
I agree
with you. Littleton is gonna start rubbing off on those young men.
So Fred, we're going to start wrapping it up, but something I wanted to do a little different from last time. Looking at the district schedule, what are two games right off the top of your mind that you're really, really excited about when looking at this district?
Well, I mean, obviously, we're talking about Ed Couch as a football, so anything that Ed Couch is involved with is always fun for me. I've always liked the program, always liked the tradition, I've always liked the sportsmanship that they bring. So obviously, the Mercedes game is going to be important. That's always a rivalry. It's one of the bigger ones, so that's an easy one to call. But to me, I think the one that I'm looking at that really is going to make a big difference. You know, when we're talking about playoffs. Sherryland Pioneer, they end the season against Mercedes. So it's going to be at Pioneer. That might be the game that Sherryland must win to be in the playoffs. Might be the game they need to win to stay on top of the district. Who knows, right? But that game, I know you got to wait till the end.
Yeah.
But that game, I think, has a lot of implications, especially if Pioneer can find a way to get it rolling and be there. That game is going to be fun. You gotta wait to the end, but Ed Couch, the Yellow Jackets playing Mercedes is good. And then I would say, what's going to happen is Coach Gilpin going to say, hey, wait a minute, I remember what happened last year against Ed Couch. Is it payback this year? I was going to ask Jimmy, what do you think? He's a class act, but he hasn't forgotten.
Oh, no.
He hasn't forgotten. He's a good guy, but he hasn't forgotten about that. So I don't know. Those two games, I think, really come out. Mercedes, Ed Couch, and then the last game, Mercedes and Pioneer might be for a lot. Might mean a lot to maybe both teams at this point.
Two games I'm looking forward to. Number one, Ed Couch Mercedes, again, just because of the rivalry.
Yeah,
and I think, honestly, I think both teams are evenly matched if you really think about it. I know that they've got Cisneros and all that, but that's what I'll put Cortez against him any day. I think our defense, is they learned from last year what to do. Navarro realizes now, hey, we got to do things differently. That's going to be an interesting game. But here's one you didn't mention that I think could be a gunfight of the OK Corral. Mission Vets and Mercedes. That could be a shootout.
Oh, yeah.
That could be a shootout, man. That's
I don't recall. Obviously, Mercedes.
Scoring game. If our defensive philosophies do stand pat, but Cisneros against Reina. You're looking at
top two guys.
Yeah. So I think that'll be an interesting game. Last question.
I'm with you. Yeah.
4 district teams. We don't have to pick them in order, but who are your 4 playoff teams in this district?
Okay. Well, I've mentioned last time that I didn't think Dave Campbell was too far off. So we'll agree with what he brought out. Mercedes, in no order, just Mercedes. They chose Mercedes. They chose obviously Mission veterans. They chose the Mission. What was the other one? The other one that I missed? Ed Couch. Those are 3, right? And then the last one for Sherryland, right? So you have 4 teams now. You're saying
you're talking about Sherryland High or Pioneer? Who are you looking at?
I think Sherryland Pioneer gets the 4th spot. I think the team like Sherryland is outside looking in. Now, very easily it could be that Snakeskin Classic. You said it earlier. Yeah. That's going to probably be a playoff. Whoever wins eventually is going to have to come down and it's going to be a playoff spot. But Pioneer and Sherryland are going to somebody's going to be left out. I just think too strong of a team, too many guys coming back for Ed Couch. Same thing for Mercedes, same thing for Mission. And then you look at the other ones. Anybody could do it. I mean, you look at the teams that you have there. Anybody can do it. But I just believe at the very end, Sherryland Pioneer with Graham might have a little too much. Again, that's why I said that last game against Mercedes might decide everything. Might flip things for Mission Sherryland and Mission Pioneer.
Yeah, I agree with you on Mission Vets, Ed Couch, and Mercedes. I think those 3 not only playoffs. I think those are your 3 contenders for a district championship. To be honest with you,
sure.
I think those 3 alone in all the games that they're going to play, they're going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Whoever survives that little, melee, I think clear cut could very well win the district title. But I'm going to flip with you. I'm going Sherryland High. I think Pioneer just lost too much. If with Duran not in the mix, moving Graham over, you're asking him to do too much. You don't have an offensive line back. You're kind of having to rebuild that offensive line. You said it best. You're taking Graham away from what he does best, where he can kill you on all fronts on the field. And you're kind of making him now just a one-dimensional type player where, he's strictly now at the quarterback position, which granted, okay, he could possibly pull a Lamar Jackson and run the ball or throw the ball, but who are you going to throw to?
Right.
If you don't have experience up front, and we've talked about Mission Vet's defense, Ed Couch's defense, Mercedes's defense. You look at those three alone, and they're going to bring the heat to Pioneer. And I think with Sherryland, just the fact that they realize that they missed out in the playoffs, and they feel spited. The fact that Memorial that Southwest beat them.
Yeah.
Kind of like Gilpin, they're going to be out for they want revenge. So I'm going to put Sherryland in there, but I'm going to agree with you. Pioneer is that team right there that you just don't know, because if Duran plays, now we're talking about I can move them up.
Right.
So if Duran is a part of the equation, hey, now I'll think about
that changes everything.
Pioneer again. Mission Vets against, now they go from possibly maybe being a playoff team to a contender. So,
right.
But just looking right now, I would have to go Sherryland High, and then Pioneer would kind of be the team that is kind of on the outside looking in. So Fred, again, it's been fun. Jimmy again took up, but luckily this time we didn't lose him. He actually had to go. Wesco, I know you're back at Wesco this year, calling games for the Panthers and Wildcats. I know we're talking District 16 5A, but what do things look like for the Panthers and the Wildcats this year?
You know what? We in District 32 6A. I mean, that you have Harlingen High, right? Harlingen South with a new coach. They're excited over there. He's been successful wherever he's been. New coach at Los Fresnos. Coach Cantu now is going to open it up. It remind me of the old days, right? San Benito, those are just off the bat. Wesco, that's 4 or 5 teams right there. We haven't even talked about much improved team like Hannah, much improved team like Rivera.
What's gas over there? Yep.
You see what I mean? So this district is right up there, and on any given night, obviously you have a couple of teams that have more returners, but what are the I'm excited to see Harlingen South. They've had a young group last year, and so I wonder what's going to develop with them. They still were just a step or two away, really, from putting all together. Is this the year they win the Bird Bowl? Is this the year that they upset teams and they're in, could be. Los Fresnos has athletes all over the place. Can Cantu use them? Yeah, man.
I've heard Harlingen is loaded for Bear. Some people
I
say
didn't even talk about Harlingen
in the Valley. I mean, I've heard Harlingen is
loaded. Both defensive and offensive. They return a lot of their backs from last year. Isaiah Bell, remember that name? You're gonna hear it a lot. Isaiah Bell, one of the top quarterbacks, and he plays quarterback and running back, and he's all over the place. He's a dangerous kid. He's just a youngster, but he's gonna be one to watch. But yeah, hey man, football is back, right?
There we go. So Fred, again, it's been fun. I want to thank you. I was gonna ask you. Okay, don't know your schedule, don't know what East and High yet is gonna happen, but we have a Thursday night game, and if you're not doing anything that night, I think you just might want to be there. We play Mission Vets on a Thursday.
Whoa.
Play them on a Thursday at Mission Vets, and I'll give you the date right now, because I knew when I mentioned it, I was like, Fred's eyes are going to light up.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, that game is actually going to be Thursday, September the 23rd at Tom Landry. So if you ain't doing anything that night, love for you to join me, because I'll tell you what, that's going to be a heck of a football game.
Let me start looking now. September 23rd, you said, right?
Thursday night, Tom
November
Landry
25th. I
Stadium.
have no idea. I have no idea where we're gonna be at. I know we have a Thursday night game as well.
Yeah, well, you know,
that
with you guys, sometimes y'all have home games there, so I wasn't sure, but
Yeah,
but if you're
yeah.
available, yeah, I'd love you to
Hold
join
on.
me. That's gonna
Yeah.
be a fun one on Thursday night,
Kidding me,
especially.
man? Kidding me? Hey, thanks for the invite. No, man, that'd be fun to watch. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that'd be great. Hey, so
I'll tell you what, I'll bring the
I'm wondering,
donuts this time.
you bring the donuts. There you go.
I'll
Hey,
bring
so
the
let me
donuts.
ask you, is it gonna be ready by? I know Tom Landry Stadium was going through renovations and things like
Yeah,
that.
so
I
is
know,
ours. So is ours.
I know this much. When Wesco High goes to play Mission this year in a non-district game, the game is going to happen in Hidalgo. So it was scheduled to be at Mission's Tom Landry, but because of renovations, they moved it to Hidalgo. I don't know if that's going to affect anything. That might be something for the Jacket fans to think about.
Yeah,
Might be traveling to Hidalgo instead of Mission.
we're kind of in the same boat. Our stadium, our turf's being redone in our track. So we were
Right.
going to actually open our first scrimmage against Lopez was at home. Now we're going to Brownsville. Of
Right.
course, we only got 3 home games this year, so our turf should be ready by then. But we're kind of in the same boat. So, from talking to Navarro, our turf's gonna be a beautiful turf, beautiful new turf. I'll have to show it to you. It's
just
really
just
nice.
to roll around in it for a few minutes, man. Just give me some time to roll around.
That's
in it,
all I want to do. Yeah, just let me get the newness on. But anyway, man. Best of luck to you this year. I hope we can work together. I know you and I've talked about a couple things. I'm still working on that one.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be fun. I'm just glad that we're back. We're back to normal. I hope, pray to God that there's no shutdowns. We don't have anything like last year. I know a lot of teams, the kids are vaccinated, so that's good. We still got to be safe. We still got to be careful out there. But football is back, man, and it's an exciting time. And I'm ready.
Yes, sir.
Fred, thank you so much for everybody. Again, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, you can check out our football schedule on the Jacket Network Facebook page. We have it on there. Jackets will be in action next Friday at Brown. As of right now, is at Brownsville Lopez for the scrimmage, and then we go to La Feria. That's going to be another good one. And then, of course, we open this season against Los Fresnos. So should be interesting. Going to be a lot of fun. Let's see if Fred and Jimmy and I's predictions come true. It'll be sink or swim. But yeah, exactly. But I will say this: I was right on PSJ Southwest last year.
That's right.
So, Fred, thank you, my friend. Have a good one, folks. Don't forget 3 words we live by here at Jacket Network: fear the sting.